Hi, everyone. Welcome to another amazing topic of conversation. Thank you to my sponsors, the Health Channel. So please sign up for their newsletter regarding any health issues. And if you have needs for working space, whether it's an hour, a boardroom, or a month or a year, Alexa's Workspace can make it happen. So, Jackie, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
I know this is not a fun topic, but it's a topic that we need to talk about, especially since we are just a few months away again of hurricane season.
Yes.
So, insurance. Insurance has been skyrocketing. Associations have had their insurance increase in like 300%. So they are doing assessments for their buildings, ridiculous assessment just to cover the insurance.
Yeah.
Why? Why is this?
So,
Why did it happen from one day to another to 300%?
well, I would say it was a few years in the making, and it kind of unfortunately started with the collapse of Surfside. That right there raised the bar on associations having to repair, make repairs, pass the 40-year inspection, things that maybe some associations weren't doing. And then on top of this, one of our big carriers called St. John's, they insured a lot of that building. They went bankrupt. Slowly more other carriers went bankrupt in the last 3 years. We've had, I think, about 9 or 10 carriers that are no longer writing in the state. When there's not that many carriers to choose from, you're kind of limited. So the markets are limited. The associations can only turn to 2 or 3 carriers, and those carriers have increased, I would say, in the last 2 to 3 years, 50%, 100%, and now 300%, causing all of those association fees to climb up so much.
So I know that, for example, someone that does not have a mortgage, they can choose whether to have insurance or not have insurance.
That's
If
correct.
they're in a single home, because if you're in a building, then you need to have the insurance. It's like a mandatory. And if you have a mortgage, then your mortgage carrier, um, we need to have insurance. But there's a lot of people in single family homes that are now obligated to not have insurance because of the increase.
So, first, you can only choose not to carry insurance if you don't have a mortgage. If you have a mortgage, there's no way to get around it. If you let your policy cancel because you think that I just can't pay it anymore, the mortgage will force place you and you'll end up paying almost triple of a
Triple, what
regular.
can I say? Because yeah, they didn't get my insurance, and I got a letter of how much they were gonna charge me for homeowners, and I freaked out. It was triple the amount.
Yes. So people assume that, the carrier won't, the mortgage won't find out. The carrier will send a mortgage the notice that it was canceled, and the mortgage will force place you, making you pay triple. So it's kind of counterintuitive letting it go because you're going to be paying more. Um, but if you don't have a mortgage, it's up to you to choose whether you want to insure your home or not. Now, what most of my clients are doing because the prices have gone just so high is they're choosing to forego wind insurance, wind and hurricane, and they're only having a hazard policy, which covers you for like theft, fire, liability, water damage, mold, etc. It basically covers you for everything but wind.
Okay,
And
like a hurricane. So they're making a bet that there's not going to be a hurricane. That's what you're saying?
they're either making a bet that there's not going to be a hurricane, or a lot of these people self-insure, which is, they'll put that money, let's say $2,000-3,000 away every year in an account, so that if there is a hurricane in the future, they'll be able to cover the cost of whatever damage is done. So a lot of people are foregoing the wind insurance because that's really the most expensive portion of your policy, is the wind. And the hazard covers you for other things that you can't predict. You can't predict when you're going to have a fire. You can't predict when you're going to get home one day and everything's been robbed from your house, or you know, a pipe breaks and there spills water all over your floors.
If you're talking that you can't predict, then we cannot predict a hurricane either.
We can, because they'll tell us when the hurricane is off the coast of
Yeah,
Africa.
but you cannot get an insurance like that week. It will literally.
No. That's another misconception. People try and wait until the last minute to get insurance, and the insurance carriers are always a step ahead. As soon as they see a hurricane watch coming to the States, to Florida,
The
they will
little red
issue,
ball.
yeah, they'll issue, you know, no policies written, and you cannot bind or you know, you can't give somebody a policy with a hurricane knocking on the door. You know, so they do have rules about that, and you won't be able to just get a policy the day before a hurricane comes. But, you know, if you have your hurricane policy and a hurricane does come, then you're well protected with the insurance.
So tell me a little bit more about the law changed about about claiming. So
Yes.
tell me
So
about that, because a lot of people really do not know about the claims. Or
okay, so last year, or 2022, the government stopped allowing the insurance carriers to pay for the attorneys. So before this, you used to hire an adjuster, the adjuster would hire an attorney, you would make your claim, and the carrier would pay for all of it, the adjuster, the claim, and the attorney.
okay,
Now, the new rule states that the carrier is no longer going to pay your attorney fees. So if you make a claim for $80,000, that's what you're getting. You're not going to get another 10 for the attorney and another 10 for the adjuster. You're solely getting what you're claiming, and you have to pay the attorney out of your own claim money,
and
which,
the adjuster,
and the adjuster as well.
why? What happened? What
It
made change?
was, I mean, of what I've understood, there was, and it has been shown that there is a lot of fraud, especially in South Florida. Hialeah is the #1 city with water claims throughout the country, not just the state of Florida, in the country.
Ouch.
Unfortunately, you know, born and raised Miami, I know that we can be sketchy, and you have your sketchy adjusters and you have your honest adjusters. A lot of claims that have been made have been fraudulent. And, you know, some people will say, oh, my roof just needs a couple of tiles. An adjuster comes in and says, we can get you a whole new roof. Let me just, you know, do the claim for you. And before you know it, it's been a huge pandemic of fraud going on. So to limit the fraud, the government thought this was the best course of action to reduce it. In the last year, it has gone down by like 11%. So it has worked to reduce fraud, but at the same time, you know, it doesn't help a client when they have to pay the attorney out of pocket.
Correct.
So
And
it's a double-edged sword.
when it's a real claim.
Correct, exactly.
What can people do to save on insurance?
So
Like, are
one of the
there
best,
things that you can do?
yes, first off, you should definitely work with a broker like me, because I don't work with just one carrier. I'm not dedicated to one carrier. I work with over 25 carriers
And that's
just
the
for the,
reason that I wanted to talk to you, because as
yeah,
a
I mean,
disclaimer, you're not working for one.
correct. I'm a broker. I work with over 25 carriers. My job as an insurance agent is to look for the best offer for my client. So maybe Olympus is great for one client, but Florida Family is better for another. Um, having the options of having so many homeowner carriers helps me reduce people's rates because I have more options than just Citizens, or I only work for one carrier. So my client is definitely guaranteed that I am going to look everywhere for them to get them the lowest prices. Now, what they can do to save and help bring down their rates is the number one thing is make sure you have either shutters or impact windows. This helps reduce the rate anywhere from $1,000 to like $3,000, depending on the size of the home. And that's the biggest credit you're going to get. Now, another credit that you get is having a updated roof. If you have a shingle roof, for example, and it's over 10 years old, a lot of carriers that I work with don't want that old roof, leaving you with no choice but to go to Citizens. But if you're constantly updating the roof, you're able to look for other options with other
What
carriers.
do you mean when you say leaving no option except to go to Citizens? What?
So the carriers that I work with have a lot of, rules and regulations in place. So one of the biggest rules is a lot of them don't take a shingle roof that's over 10 years old. So if
What's
all of
shingle
my,
roof?
huh?
What's a shingle roof? Let's get
It's okay.
educated today.
So there's different types of roof. There's shingle, which is like the taps, which is I would say it's the most common roof in down here in South Florida. There's tile and there's metal roofs, and then there's flat roofs. So shingle is probably the most commonly used. However, the lifespan of a shingle roof is only about 10 to 20 years versus a tile roof that can be 20 to 40 years. And a metal roof can go all the way up to 50 years. So the roof definitely helps you save a little bit on that policy.
And why Citizens? Like Citizens is obligated to insure everyone or?
Yes, correct. So Citizens is the insurer of last resort. So if all of my carriers decline a client because their roof is over 10 years old, then the only option we have left is Citizens, which is the government-backed insurance carrier.
And I'm assuming that it's much more expensive. Or
Honestly, no, because Citizens needs to have government approval in order to raise their rates. And the government has done a pretty decent job of not increasing consistently every 3 or 4 months. So that's why the private market has gone up so much because there's nobody to really control, you can't raise rates.
so why people don't use more Citizens?
Um, they're not the best. They've been known to give you a tough time with claims. They limit a lot of their coverages. They limit liability to 100,000. They limit their water damage to 10,000. So it's not. Citizens is not made as a private carrier to insure, throughout the state of Florida. Citizens is basically looking for the insurance of last resort. It's just so happened that half of Florida is turning to Citizens because there's no other options.
What's your recommendation?
Well, first, definitely work with a broker that's able to offer you more options than just one or two carriers. Um, Maintaining the home is very important. Maintaining the roof is definitely one of the most important aspects. Having those impact windows and shutters. If you have an alarm, that's a small credit, a burglar or fire alarm, that's a small credit that will help you reduce your rate as well.
Do you work also with associations?
I don't because that's commercial insurance. And at the moment,
Even if it's condominiums,
I work with condominiums and like I can insure the residents and their personal
but not
condos.
like the whole building.
Not the whole building because that's commercial. And right
Okay.
now, my commercial markets are not doing, commercial in general is not doing very well. So I've taken a step back from commercial and haven't haven't done any commercial in a while.
Jackie, before June 1st, where can they find you if anybody needs to redo their insurance before it expires?
They can find me at my office, John Galt Insurance. I can give my phone number.
give your phone number and your website, because I think this is really important, because I've heard a lot of people like having to undergo their insurance. So I
Okay.
think that this will help a lot of people making a decision. And like, for example, I didn't know that you had a choice in certain ways of getting one insurance or not the other.
Yes. As long as you don't have a mortgage.
Website.
But I, so the best way to reach me is my office number, which is 305-209-3102, and my extension is 3. Our website is johngaltinsurance.com. And my Instagram handle is FLA__ insurance_guru. And you can contact me through Instagram as well, or my email, jackie.cuni@johngaltinsurance.com. And I would be happy to help with any rate issues that people are having, or just a review of their insurance. It doesn't mean that I may find them something better, but sometimes people need to understand what it is that they're covering.
And now that there's like a sea rise threat, and there has been, even not in hurricane, but for 2 weeks ago, there was another storm and half of the city got flooded. So
Yes,
that's
and this
another insurance, that flood insurance.
correct. Flood insurance is completely separate from homeowners. Flood insurance is defined as rising water from the outside in, meaning that it needs to, rain a ton and overflow into your house in order to be covered.
It does.
Flood insurance.
So it's different from when like a pipe breaks.
Right. So a pipe breaking would be water damage, and that would be covered under your homeowners.
Okay.
But flood, which is regulated by FEMA, specifically covers flooding from catastrophes or rain or anything where it starts on the outside and goes into your house.
Okay, and that's a completely different one.
Completely separate policy.
Flood, and then there's wind, and then there, oh my God. Okay.
And there's hazard, yes. So for the most part, your homeowner's policy is going to have the hazard and hurricane together. And if you're in a flood zone, you're going to have a separate flood policy. And you will be required, if you have a mortgage and you're in a flood zone, they will require for you to have a flood policy to protect the house.
All right. Jackie, thank you for the whole education on insurance before hurricane season starts. And I hope that there will not be any hurricanes this year. We're taking it 1 year at a time. And to everyone, please, let's hope that there will be peace in the world before my next conversation. And above all, stay safe. Have an amazing day.